Hey guys, welcome to the long-awaited Engines of Conrail Episode 4. I do apologize for the inconvenience since this would have been out at least a month ago now, but if you've watched my last video, you will know exactly why that didn't happen. But yes, the winning voter in the Community Tab vote was the General Electric C40-8W, and good choice. These GEs have a lot of history, so let's begin. In 1988, several railroads, including Conrail, were looking for GE locomotives to replace the current aging GE U36Bs and B36-7s. Some U36Bs were nearing 19 years old around this time and were clearly in need of replacement. So they all turned to GE for a locomotive with 6 axles, the then new wide cab, a bigger engine, and the ability to pull more freight at higher speeds. So GE began working on the railroad's request. The result? The General Electric C40-8W, one of the few GE locomotives I actually really like. The GE C40-8W has a CC wheel arrangement, were 70 feet 8 inches long, 15 feet 8 inches tall, and 10 feet 2 inches wide, and had a weight of 391,600 pounds or 195.8 US tons. They have a 4,000 horsepower GE 4-stroke cycle 7 FTL 16 series prime mover, and a GE GMG 187 main generator, and a GY27 alternator. They had 5,000 US gallons of fuel, at 106,790 pounds of starting tractive effort, and 92,750 pounds of continuous tractive effort, and a gearing ratio of 83:20, which allows a speed of 70 miles an hour. The C in C40-8W stands for the CC wheel arrangement, 40 for 4,000 horsepower, the 8 for the locomotive being designed in the 80s, and the W for the wide cab. They would be rostered as 6050 to 6285. 756 of these would be produced by GE, with production life lasting 5 years from 1989 to 1994. In 1990, the first C40-8W number 9356 was rolled out for the Union Pacific Railroad to begin life. Conrail's units would arrive between 1990 and 1991. The first units would come equipped with the classic Conrail paint scheme, while the later units would have the Conrail quality paint scheme. Later units would come with GE's new Integrated Function Displays, or IFD for short. The IFDs are LCD displays that provide the engineer with the locomotive status previously provided by dials and gauges, as well as an integrated distance counter, end of train device functions, as well as split cooling systems for their turbocharger. One of my favorite design features on some of the Conrail C40s is the light setup, because just like Southern Pacific's SD45s, Conrail had custom light setups on their C40s. They didn't appear until 1997, when the FRA requested all locomotives to be equipped with ditch lights. The rule was that if a locomotive is traveling over 20 miles an hour and over one or more grade crossings, it would require ditch lights. So Conrail began equipping all of their locomotives with ditch lights, and they got creative with their setups. The two main setups found on the C40s was the wide setup and the standard NS style setup. The wide setup in particular was unique because, well, you usually don't see a wide setup of ditch lights on a more modern wide cab GE. Both variants would also support high headlights just like Norfolk Southern's units. In fact, NS today still continues to use high headlights on all of their locomotives. The C40s would soldier on through the 90s and almost early 2000s, but the Conrail breakup never made that possible. The 236 C40s were split between CSX and Norfolk Southern. CSX got 98 C40-8Ws, and NS got 138. These would all join their own fleets of C40s, and over time, would slowly be patched over one by one, being absorbed into the two companies, with the last one being repainted sometime in 2012, 13 years after the merger. Life on CSX and NS wasn't that eventful. NS 8352 was involved in a wreck that damaged its nose, and got a pretty interesting patch job. But it was later repainted into the horsehead logo scheme. And really the only clear way to tell if it is an ex-Conrail unit is the marker lights, ditch lights, or the high headlight, or in Norfolk Southern's case, just the marker lights and the wide setup of ditch lights. Most C40-8W stayed in the CSX YN2 paint scheme, but in later years, some would be painted into the YN3 and YN3B paint schemes. Norfolk Southern's units would also be painted into the horsehead scheme in the coming years. They would continue to serve the two companies into the 2000s and mid-2010s, but by 2016, the old Dash 8s were beginning to show their age. Lack of positive train control, not meeting new emission standards, and increasing maintenance costs led the railroads to start retiring or selling the Dash 8s. And of course, PSR didn't do us or them any favors.
You're weak, just like the rest of your people. They did not deserve to exist in this world, in my world. Prepare to join them. Prepare to die!
Which laid the final nail on the coffin for the old Dash 8s. The majority of the C40s remain in storage as of 2024, and unfortunately, others were gutted and cut up for scrap. So it's safe to say it's pretty unlikely we'll see the old Conrail Dash 8s on the roster anytime soon. CSX has rebuilt 10 non-Conrail Dash 8s with new technology, and is also reactivating some original CSX Dash 8s, but again, they are not ex-Conrail. Except 7929. 7929 here is an ex-Conrail Dash 8. It's also an ex-LMS unit, which is pretty cool, but unfortunately it was retired in early 2024, making it one of the last ones on the roster to be retired, and it's old. Over 30 years to be exact, and has all the other problems the Dash 8s have as well. And as of the making of this video, 7929 now joins the hundreds of older mainline models in storage in Waycross, Georgia, most likely not to see another wheel turn in service again. Pretty sure the main cause for retirement was PSR, of which spells disaster for us rail fans. The railroads use it to increase efficiency and lower operation costs. This is done by reducing staff, longer and less frequent trains, and simplifying routes trains run on. Since less and longer trains are now a thing, many new GE locomotives are used for these trains, leaving no use for the older and weaker mainline models such as the SD40-2, the old Conrail SD60s, C40-8s, and of course, the ex-Conrail C40-8Ws. Less engines on the roster means lower operation costs, lower fuel costs, and less greenhouse gas emissions. I think you get the point. While no ex-Conrail C40-8s remain on the roster of either company as of 2024, you can still try looking for them on short lines and leasing companies. CSX 9280, while not a C40-8W, is a C40-8 and was rebuilt by CSX. If you want to know more about 9280, you can go and watch my C40-8 episode. But thank you CSX for reactivating and keeping 7929 on the roster all these years. Time for some hard-earned rest for 7929. Thank you all for watching episode 4. This one is definitely one of my personal favorites. I also wanted to thank you all so much for the support recently, both this series and the channel itself. We are almost at 600 subscribers, so thank you all a lot. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It's free and it helps out a ton. But anyways, till next time on Zach's Train Productions.